everyone, and welcome. Welcome to this episode of Mind and Muse Crafts. It is episode 22, and I am recording on today, which is March 25th of 2019. It is not as early in the morning as I have wanted to, and you will also realize that I am recording in a new surroundings. Yes. I continue to come to you from the island of Puerto Rico on the western side of the island where I live with my husband. And my husband has been such a darling and has made for me this multi-cubby shelf that you see on the back of me. It is in a different room from the room that I normally podcast in. And it is a room that is on the farther side of the house. It's in a different direction. It receives the sunlight at a different time during the day, so it is not as bright as the other room that I normally podcast in. But I am thinking that it adds more light to the room because it's all white, and I'm just hoping that it'll be okay. I just wanted to show it to you. I wanted to bring it into my camera as a new addition to my house, where my husband has tried to make my environment a more organized one. You don't want to see what's on the other side at the back of the camera because everything is a mess, but I just decided to leave it all aside for a moment while I recorded this, and then I'll get back to my house cleaning and house organization. So today is special on several accounts. First of all, because about 2 days after my last podcast, I realized that I had hit the 1 year mark in my podcasting. It had been 1 year since I began recording, and I hadn't mentioned it. I should have mentioned it in the previous one, but I didn't, so I am mentioning it now. It has been a year since I began on this venture by myself, and you have all been kind enough to accompany me on this journey. So yes, we have ventured this together. I don't know how much you all knew, but I didn't know as much as I know today. I can assure you of that. And so I just made a list of some of the things that over this year we had experienced together. And so first of all, obviously I began podcasting, because if not, I wouldn't be here. And I also made my first pair of knit socks, and you were with me through the journey, as well as you were with me through the journey of my crochet socks the year before. You were with me through this journey of my complaining and my constant whining about how difficult I found it. But I got them done. And after that, I even made a second pair. So you have witnessed that with me over this year. I also, during this year, wrote my first pattern. It was a sock pattern. Was it a sock pattern? I can't remember if the collar, the pointed collar, was done before the sock. I believe it was, because it might have been that the sock was done, but since I was waiting until September, which is the sock along, the sock along occurred, hosted by Faye of the Crochet Circle podcast. Well, I probably held it back, and so the first one that I published was not the socks, but it was the first time that I sat down and actually tried to design something. After that, I have done that on several other occasions, but that was a first for me during this year. Recently, or maybe I shouldn't, I should mention that in a little bit, I also completed my first corner to corner project, and it was a blanket, and it's sitting right up here on my little crafting shelf, because at the moment I have no space for it, and it's starting to get very warm on the island, so nobody wants to be wrapped up in blankets, crochet or not, anymore. That was my first corner to corner. So at about the time that Jess of the Make and Do crew published this pattern, it was maybe a little bit after, she also published this book on corner to corner crochet, and I recently received it as a gift to myself. It can be found on Amazon. I don't know if she sells it, if there's a link to the sale on her blog, because she does have the makeanddocrew.com, but I went directly to Amazon and was able to purchase it, and it's full of lovely, none of the patterns that she has on her blog are in the book. These are all new patterns, and it's also got all the basics of C2C in one place. So if we ever are without electricity again, I don't have to worry about not being able to find things on my laptops or on my tablet. I will have it here next to me. So, and I also like to cooperate with people from our community that put these things out, because the prices are not huge. They're not huge investments, and I think it's a good practice to support the small businesses. So yay for the corner to corner crochet pattern that introduced me to the book, and I am happy to have both of those at the moment. I also completed my first wool painting during this year, and it's not here for me to share with you again. And it was a gift from my husband for this Christmas, but I felt it was good. It was good, and as I look at it, it's on the wall in our living room at the moment. And as I look at it, I feel how much I have grown in that area and how much more I would like to do. And it was a great experience, and I will always and forever be thankful to my friend Melissa of the, she is now the Acorn Willows. Acorn Willows, she is a fiber artist, and I have learned so much from her over the past years of our friendship, and so I have to also always thank her anytime I think about wool felting, for introducing me to the craft and for helping me. If ever I had a doubt on how to do something, I could contact her, and she was always there for me. So thank you from Melissa for that, and thank you all for accompanying me on that journey. That was a tough one. There were a couple of them that were pretty tough on-takes this year. But I had my doubts at the beginning. I got it done, and I am very proud to be able to have shared that with you and to have gifted that. And recently, recently I achieved 500 subscribers on YouTube, and that must be an achievement, because YouTube even contacted me and sent me a congratulatory note on the fact that I had received my first 500 subscribers. But we all know that that is not really such a big thing, because if you look at the views that my channel is getting recently, they are they are slightly past the 200 mark, which means, well, I've got 500 subscribers, but not all of them are watching me, or at least not all of them watch all of my episodes. They might fluctuate, they might change, you might skip one because you don't have the time or not interested in the topic, but well, it's an achievement, and it's an achievement worth mentioning, because when you start out on these things, you have nobody. Well, I had one follower, definitely, my daughter, Clarisabeth, who is the host of the Crochet Cakes podcast, because she started out first, and then I got into it with her at a moment where she needed some help with the content, because she had an injury that she couldn't produce as much content as she wanted to. And then after that, we just kind of like got used to it. And so when she left, then I had to decide, and I decided to continue. And it's been a year. It's been a year. So it took me a year to reach those 500 subscribers. I can only hope that if I continue to do this, that those subscribers will grow. You all know that having a lot of subscribers can have various meanings, and to the different people that are on YouTube, and the different purposes of why they have their channels up. For me, and at this moment, it's just a matter of getting out there more. And the more subscribers, the more benefits YouTube gives you, the higher you are, and the ranking in the search engine. And so it's just a time for people to be able to, more people to be able to see what you're doing and to become part of your community. In the sense of community, I also recently just started the first MAL for this podcast, and it is the In Harmony MAL. The In Harmony MAL is a chance to unite more than one craft in a project that you create. And I was on Instagram this morning, and it's curious how ideas just seem to flow, and then they all seem to come out at a specific time. Because I began thinking about the inharmony, Cal, when all of the talk of inclusivity or inclusiveness and diversity began occurring on Instagram. I immediately thought about the diversity of crafting and how sometimes a crafter of a particular craft can feel left out by the others, because there seems to be, every so often you can feel the slight competition that there are between the crafts of one, not necessarily trying to be, but those that practice that craft, believing that it is the better craft to practice. And so I won't say that we're at each other's throats all the time, or there is this huge antagonism between the crafts, but there is some, and it is felt. It is felt more by some than by others. Some of us just ignore it and just go on with it. But I just wanted to forget about all that, because I practiced several crafts and I really enjoy doing things that bring those crafts together. So in honor of that, I began this Inharmony Mal, because it's a make-along. It began February 28th, and just recently I have seen other influencers, so we call them, people that have a huge amount of followers, like 10,000 followers on Instagram, have the ability to influence more people than I do. And I've seen them talking about this issue of diversity within the crafting, within crafts, not just among the people, but also the crafts themselves. And so I said, well, we just hit that nail right on the head, didn't we? And so in order to promote this Mal and be able to kind of like collect the different projects that you all are going to be creating and give us a forum, a platform where we could invite other people to see what we're doing, I opened up a group on Ravelry, and we have currently 28 members in that group. If you did not become a member of that group, I would like to ask you, nicely, but I would like to ask you, please try and get an account on Ravelry. It is free. Join the community, introduce yourself, and present to us as part of the community your feelings on this multi-craftiness. You might just want to go into the chatter group, not as a participant in the fact that you're going to make a project, but you just might want to go in there and talk to people, meet new people, ask them how they've done things, where did they get the idea from, or compliment what the idea that they had and how the project turned out. So there are tons of things that you could go in and do just participating as a community member, even if you're not going to post any object there. But let me assure you that this is addictive. And if you go in there and you see some of the wonderful things that people are creating, you're going to want to do some of that yourself. And that is not a bad thing, and I will be very happy to for you to become infected with the idea of creating projects from more than one craft. If you have not gone to Ravelry, if you have not subscribed to Ravelry, if you have not opened an account, please do so and make this group all the livelier with your presence and your comments, and let's just have some fun, right? Let's just have some fun. So we'll see what the prizes will be when they're here, and I will share those with you in the future soon. I will share them with you soon. So basically, that brings us up to this year. That has as a quick run through of what occurred during this first year of my podcasting. And so let's move on to what's happening now. So we were going to begin with the first section, which is Walk the Talk. And I decided that I should share with you one of the first garments that I made. If not the first. It was either one of the first or the first. I'm not really sure whether I began the garment that I am wearing before or after I began the feather and fan top, which is the first maybe top that I did, and this is the first cardigan, so it does have its place. It's the first cardigan. And this is the Luna Lovegood cardigan that is a free pattern on Ravelry, and it was designed by Megan Nieves, Megan Nieves. It's a free pattern, and it's not actually on Ravelry. The link on Ravelry will take you to an external site where they have published a lot of things that have to do with Harry Potter, and that's where she published her original pattern. And so I have to say, I'm very sure that I would have to say that this is one of the makes that I have most enjoyed making, and ever since. I don't know, I mean, I'm surrounded right now with other projects that I can see, but I don't know why making this one gave me such joy. I don't know if it was the fact that I was actually creating a project that was going to reflect something that I had enjoyed sharing very much with my youngest daughter, which was the whole Harry Potter series and the books. It definitely wasn't the yarn. This was just made in peaches and cream cotton yarn, and it is probably, I'll stand up for a moment so you can see the whole one. Now that I'm in a room where I actually have some space and I'm not in a claustrophobic area closed down, right, you can actually see the whole garment, in case you haven't seen it before, in case you weren't with us when we were doing the Crochet Cakes podcast. So this was, as I was saying, the peaches and cream yarn. And if you're from the United States, I don't know if this type of yarn is international, like it goes outside the United States, but it is one of the very few yarns that we find here on the island. It is the worst probably yarn possible that you could choose to make a garment with, because it's so heavy. It's an Aran weight. It's heavy and stiff, and it has no drape to it. But it was the perfect yarn for this project, because if you have seen the movie, because I don't really remember if so much detail was given to her garments, to the Luna Lovegood garments in the book. I think not. But anyway, if you saw the one that they made for her in the movie, this is very similar to it. There are many patterns. I think there are over 60 patterns that were made using this pattern on the Ravelry thread, where you can look at other, and it was, so 69 people is like a lot of people. 2 people have made my socks, but this has been around for a lot longer, right? It came out very close to when, I believe it was the 3rd movie came out. And so, but I don't know why, it always makes me very happy. The color makes me happy. I think it always makes me think of Easter, but I don't know, the color makes me happy. I was very happy with it because I had, as I normally did, I made the garment more than once, because I made it in a wool yarn, I made it in a wool yarn that I had in my stash, and that was like a more special yarn. It was a blend of wool and, was it wool and bamboo? But the idea is that it wasn't a cost-effective project if you were going to do it in that. That was a fingering weight yarn. I would have had to use a double, and so I believe I had 2 balls or 2 skeins of this yarn, and then I looked all over the Walmarts that are close to me and anywhere else that I could think of that they sold this yarn, and I found 1 more ball. I was afraid that I wouldn't have enough, so I believe I purchased a set of 3 online, and I had 1 left over in the long run. But yes, it always makes me happy. The mesh that you see here, I believe, was included in the pattern, but it was the part of the pattern that gave me most difficulty. Now, with a year more of experience or so, probably more than a year, I might look back at the pattern and see if it was really difficulty in the reading, that it wasn't written clearly, or if it was me and my inexperience. But this was very difficult for me to follow what the author, what the designer was explaining. She did these sleeves by turning back and forth, and I wanted to do them in a round, so I had to make some modifications. She has this design only on the front, and I also included it under the sleeve, because when I look at the movie, that's what I see. So I also included the mesh under the sleeve, and on the sides. And overall, I am still very happy with it. I don't get to use it as much because even though it is cotton, it is worsted cotton, it's heavy, it's pretty heavy even to use on the island. We're still in the cool months of the year, so the morning has been pretty cool. I've been able to wear it comfortably, but yes, it's not, I don't wear it as often as I would like to. Yes. Okay, so that's walking the talk. And I'm also wearing a bracelet that I also made myself, and I thought was very appropriate to accompany it. It is amethyst and wood. And this is another thing about an area where mixing materials makes me think of all the issues that are going on online right now, because it is not common to see, well, maybe it's common for people that create them like I do to mix all the materials. This has amethyst chips, which is probably the cheapest form of any gemstone that you can find if you find it in chips. It's got wood, which is probably another one of the, out of all of them, the cheapest. This has a rare form, but wood is always the cheapest material that you can get. It has glass, and it has silver beads, which have now don't look as silver because they've oxidized a little bit. But I love the bracelet because of the fact that it is multi-material. I don't know what you would call that. It is made up of different types of material all put together. And I've made this several years ago, so it's not new. And it is still, it can still, I mean, it is still attractive when you wear it. So yes, that's my walking the talk section, walk the talk section this morning. And from there, then, I would like to talk to you about some of the projects that over the previous weeks have reached the end of the line. So this next section is called End of the Line, where I'm going to talk to you a little bit about projects that I have completed. What should go first? First of all, I will mention the pattern. This was another first for me this year. Did it occur? But it did not occur. Actually, it would probably be next, this new year that is running for the podcast. It would probably be one of the first achievements of this new year, because on March the 17th, it was a Sunday, was St. Patrick's Day, and Crochet Zine had accepted to publish on St. Patrick's Day a pattern that I had worked on specifically for them for that day, and they did. And the pattern since has moved on to, has at least given birth to one more pattern. It started out being the Lucky Bookmarker that I created. I'll put up a picture so you can see it better because of the background here. Let's see over here. Here we go. You might not see it as well because there's so many colors in my background. But it starts out with a 4-leaf clover, and then you make half of the stem, the 3-leaf clover, the other half of the stem, and then you connect. And you can obviously make it as long as you would like or as short as you would like. You could probably include 2 4-leaf clovers for more luck instead of just one. And this is made in cotton. This is made in 100% mercerized cotton. It's not peaches and cream. This is Omega. Omega. And I also created it in peaches and cream because I had a couple of skeins of their forest green. So if you compare, these were the prototypes. Notice how much longer it is. Let's see, there's a second one here. Let's see. Okay. This was the first prototype, which I don't know. It must be for a world atlas or something like that. And this was the second one, but because this is an Aran weight, it's much bigger than this. This is a size 3 omega, so it's maybe a light fingering weight would be this one. And the pattern is still available on Crochet Zine, and they said it would be there for a month, so maybe up until the mid of April you could go to Crochet Zine feed, and at the top they have highlighted stories, and one of the highlighted stories is Let's Get Lucky bookmark by yours truly. And so it's there, and it will be there for a month, and after that I will put it up on my mindandmuse.com, on my site. And it will continue to be there. It will continue to be free also. But after completing this project for them, then I kind of got looking at the 4-leaf clover, and I decided to create a version of the 4-leaf clover that was enclosed in a square. So this is I called this one Granny Got Lucky. And this one is on my blog. You can go to mindandmusecrafts.com and click on the icon, the page icons that says free projects, probably free crochet projects, and it is there. And so I created it in the forest green. This was my first attempt, I believe. And then I wasn't sure about the white space, how much of white space I actually wanted there. So then I reduced the white space a little. This was my second attempt. Notice that the white space is a little reduced. So this one is a little larger than this one also. Because in order to reduce, I need less chains here. And less chains here is going to make it have less stitches here out. So obviously it's a little bit smaller. And then I decided to get a little bit fancier with it and put my 4-leaf clover where it belongs, inside a rainbow. So this is all the same pattern. It's all included in the same pattern. It gives you instructions on how to enclose the 4-leaf clover, and let's call it a granny square, although some people that have seen it have said it's not really much of a granny except the fact that it's a square because it doesn't have the granny stitch along the side. But if you know anything about crochet, that you can easily modify. You can easily, I was going to do it, but then I got lazy. You can easily convert even the edging into using the granny stitch. It's not, as long as you keep this as, what is it, 3 plus 1, 4, multiple of 4, you can do that. But I think that's pretty. I think that's pretty. And so I am now looking for a project of how I can join these together. The only thing that I had in these colors, in all of those multiple colors, was acrylic. So this is cotton. It is peaches and cream, but all this is Red Heart acrylic in different colors. And so it doesn't have the same texture as this, but they're basically the same size. So I think they could be used together in a maybe cushion cover or something like that. They could be joined together, or maybe just a wall art and put them inside a frame or something. So yes, that is one of the first things that I'm able to share with you now, because in the previous podcast it hadn't gone out yet, so I couldn't talk about it. But yes, now it is there. There are 2 free patterns on, one on Crochet Zine on Instagram and the other on my blog in mindandmusecrafts.com. And sorry it's a little bit late, a little bit after St. Patrick's Day, but I mean, we need luck all year round. Who are we kidding? So anytime is a good time to bring out your crochet hook and just crochet up a couple of 4-leaf clovers, and bet your luck on that one, that your luck will improve. Okay, next down the line, I have something that I did show you the last time, and one of the benefits of podcasting in this room, although I do feel that at the back I do have, it's a little bit darker, but because like I'm getting some Like in the corners here, you can get some shadow. But the idea is I have everything behind me and I have no mess around me. When I am finished, I have nothing to pick up because everything is right next to me. So, let's see. There it is. This is the first project that was completed. This is a bag, the last bag that Elizabeth made here for me for Valentine's Day in February. So this was our gift exchange. I love this bag, needless to say. And so in this bag I have been saving the felted coin purse project. It was crocheted, the last time that we spoke, I had crocheted, I don't remember if it was both the sides, maybe I had crocheted up both of the sides. One thing I learned is that I had crocheted them and I should have joined them together before I felted them. Well, it would have been better. It wasn't that it didn't turn out right, but the seams would have been finer, would have been a lot thinner if I had first crocheted them together and then felted them. But it's okay. Here it is, and this is the finished felting. Oh, it's felted on both sides. You know, it's so you'll notice the sagging here, but that was not produced by the crochet. That was produced when I crocheted the zipper. And that was because, if you'll notice that my crochet here is not as straight as it might seem. And so, basically, what I do, I always follow a couple of tutorial videos from online. And so what I did with this one was I slip stitched all around the zipper, all around, and then I crocheted through the purse into each of those stitches, attaching the zipper. Now what happens is that if this stitching that I did to the zipper, if it's not straight across, if it's not the same distance from the top, when I crochet it to the purse, it's going to create that sagginess. It's going to create this. Now, what I can do and what I'm planning on doing is I am going to refelt this. You know, I'm going to put it in some hot water again, and I'm going to, this time I'm going to hand felt it, which means I am going to be using my hands to create the friction, and that will also allow me to reshape the purse. And so I am hoping that when I reshape it, then I can get rid of some of that sagging. It's just for me, but if I were giving this away, that sagging would bother me. It could also be that I needed a smaller zipper. See the lump here, which, because my zipper was a bit too long and I had to push it in. But I'm going to get better at this because I find it is much better, and I actually like the end look a lot more when I crochet. See, this one was also crocheted with slip stitches. If you remember, and I'll show you in a minute to remind you, the other zipper that I added, I did it by single crocheting the zipper through each stitch. But since I didn't have my stitches anymore here, I didn't want to get too close to the edge. And so I slip stitched. And it's good to try different ways. And so the advantage of the felting is also that I really don't need to line it because it doesn't have holes. It doesn't have holes. So nothing is going to be lost. I still have some stitch definition. And this one I felted using the dryer method. Some people have asked me if I could explain how to felt the crochet. I will include in the description box below the links to, I think I responded to the comment that was on the last video, but I will also include it down in the description box below, just in case you didn't get back to that podcast and read the comments, on a very good article on a blog that I found that explains to you 3 or 4 different ways to felt. It includes hand felting, what they call, felting by hand, and machine felting, washer machine felting, and dryer felting, felting using a dryer. And I tried the dryer method, right? I tried the dryer method, but I don't know. I don't think my dryer has the high enough temperature, or this wool is very hard to felt, and it's very resistant to felting, which might also be a possibility. Plus, there's also the fact that for the first time in this blog, I read that knitting felts better than crochet. Since I'm not a knitter, I have not experienced that, but I have had some pretty good experience felting with crochet. For example, here. This was one of the first hats, the only hat that I have felted, and I had made this hat for, let's not put it on. I had made this hat, let's not do that. I had made this hat for Summer Romance Cal, while Clarissa was still here, and it's turned out to be a bit too small for me. That's why I can't really get it on. Fits Clarissa though. And it was crocheted first, and then felted. And this one was machine felted. I filled my dryer with, my washing machine with hot water. I put the hat in with a pair of jeans, and I washed it on the longest cycle possible with hot water. Now, when you do that, you need to make your project 40% larger than what you would actually make it for yourself. So that's where I erred on that. That was my mistake. I didn't make it large enough. I didn't make it big enough. So that when it felted, it is, I mean, I can get it on and all that. I do not have the hairstyle for this, but I can get it on. But it's not as comfortable as I would like. I mean, it's fine. As a matter of fact, I like it. I like the look and all that. But I think I would like it bigger, because I feel a little bit of space here at the top where it's not going down. So I would just like it to not have to struggle with it as much to get it on. So for me to wear, I would make it a bit bigger. Now I could probably wet it and try putting it on probably a hat blocker, or a bowl that has the shape of my head, and it might stretch a bit more. But this was also felted, and it was also crocheted, and now I'm going to have terrible hair, but it's okay. It was for a good purpose, right? It was for a good purpose. Fine. So it hasn't been my personal experience that crochet is difficult to felt, but that was actually the first time I have read that. So what would obviously have to happen was I would have to be able to knit up something and felt it and see if there's some truth in that, if I experience the same thing. But anyway, I will put the link below for that blog post so that you can, if you're interested in felting, this is a quick project, and I think the outcome is kind of cute. So this will be in my purse, and so I won't show it to you again, but I am going to refelt it first to see if I can, straighten out some of the edges. You really don't block after you felt, but when it's wet, what you try to do is just put it by hand into the position that you want it. But sometimes pinning can help. Okay, so that was and this was the yarn that I used to connect my zipper too. And the choice of the zipper was just lack of options. It was all I had. It was either this zipper that was that Pepto-Bismol pink, or this zipper that was shocking green. The size 5, just some polyester, 5-inch, sorry, polyester. And so I don't know if zippers come smaller than that. That's the smallest one that I found. But that then will be my entry for my own mal. And it will also be an entry for the vintage mal that Crochet Cakes is having on her YouTube channel and Ravelry group, because that stitch used was taken from a vintage dictionary, and it was used to design this pouch by Clarissa of the Crochet Cakes podcast, and her pattern for this was also published on Crochet Zine, but in the February issue. So if you missed out on that, go to Crochet Zine and see their February issue. Remember that Crochet Zine is the first Instagram magazine where they have 12 different posts, and each one of those posts has several frames that create maybe 48, 50 page magazine, and it's for free. It's on Instagram on the Crochet Zine feed. So you can find that pattern there, and it was based on a vintage stitch, so I am including this in Crochet Cakes Vintage Mal. And there is nothing greater than creating a project and have it fit into so many spaces. There's so many things that are going on. Okay, I think that's it for the end of the line. There are no other projects that have reached the end of the line for me this week. There are some that are very close. For example, I am pressing on with other projects that I have shared with you before. And so this next section where I present to you those projects that I am currently working on is going to be called Pressing On from now on. I am pressing on with the Jessica shawl. Notice that she is not connected to anything because I completed the shawl. The Jessica shawl is a very large shawl, and this one is not as large as the original version was designed to be. It's a bit smaller. I made this up using, as I mentioned before, this is Shawl in a Ball from Lion Brand, and this particular colorway is Peaceful Earth. Peaceful Earth. There's a little bit on the back. Maybe you can see the different colors. I'm not sure. But I used, this is a free pattern. The Jessica shawl is a free pattern by Bob Wilson 123 on her blog, bobwilson123.com. She recommends in the pattern using a hook that is a size larger than the size recommended by the yarn, or recommended for the yarn. So this one recommends a 6 millimeter. This one recommends a 6 millimeter because the yarn is 58% cotton, 39% acrylic, and 3% other fibers. And so the yarn itself is not a, let me see if I have any of it left. Oh, but I have another one. Yeah. I have several of them. Oh, I've got a couple of them. This is also Shawl in a Ball. I don't work for Lion Brand, and they're not paying me anything to sponsor. I'm not sponsored by them either. I just like this yarn. I like the colors. And I like the idea of having those color trays in one ball and to having enough yardage that you could actually make something other than a shawl, because I really don't make a lot of shawls. But this one is Feng Shui Gray. And this bright and lovely thing is called the Restful Rainbow. And I'll tell you what I am thinking about making with this in just a moment. But, oh, what I wanted to do was to show you the yarn. If you can see, let me see if you can see. Notice that yarn is not smooth. It's like zigzaggy. It's like zigzaggy. And so what happens is that the yarn in some places is very thin and in other places is much thicker. So I believe that's why they classify it as a number 4, which is basically worsted, and they recommend the 6. But when I was crocheting it, that would have meant that I would have had to go up to a 7, and I didn't like the way the yarn was, the fabric was working up. So I worked mine up with a 5.5. I worked mine up with a 5.5 all the way through, and there's the stitches. I really wish it would have had more of the green. I am a green person, but my sister chose the colors. She chose her favorite colors. So now, why am I saying this is not finished? Because the Jessica shawl has a border all the way around it. It's a big lace border. And I need to find a yarn in my stash that matches this yarn so that I can make the border. And I know she was using a red heart, but I don't remember the range of red heart that she uses to make the shawl in the designer, in the pattern. But she says she used 1.5 balls, so maybe 150 grams to make worsted. The original one was done in worsted. I think that's what she said, 150 grams. So I need to find one in my stash that I have enough of and that matches this. I don't know. You know, something like this. Because I like the green. But this is DK, so that one won't. I'll find something. I like the texture of the yarn. I like the feel of it. It feels woolly. It feels woolly. And you can maybe even see a halo. Whatever they put into it makes it look like it has halo. So I like the feel of it. And I think she's going to like it. She could probably use it like this already. She's just going to use it like this because she said that she goes to church, and when she goes to church, they put the air conditioning on really high. So this is, if you're doing shawl in a ball, you get a nice size shawl out of the whole thing. And so you could make this without the edging. But somebody mentioned to me on the last podcast that I am concerned with my edges, with how I end things, and that is very true. Something like this to me doesn't look finished. And so, it's in my mathematical brain, I guess. So yes, I will add the edging to it, and that's why I'm still calling it a project that I am pressing forward with. But I am very happy with it up to now. I'm happy that I finished it. The colors I like the colors. I just wish it had more green in it, because when I got to the green, I was pulling my yarn from the outside, not from the inside. So when I got to the green, I was on these very long repetitions, and so you really can't see it as much. You see more of the colors when you're on your short repetitions. You can see more of them, but yes, that's an almost. Well, I say almost, but who knows how long it's going to take me to find yarn to make that edging. And you know, when you feel like you're finished with something because I broke off the yarn and all that, how long it'll take me to get back on with it, I don't know. So that is one of the projects that I have been working on, and that's my progress with that. I've also been working on these two back here. Let's see, whatever's inside of here I'll share with you. This is a bag also made to me by Clarissabeth. It was my vintage Halloween. The fabric was called a vintage Halloween. So what else could I put into it than a vintage project? Is that true? Yes, that is true. And so in this bag has been living my version of the lace and peplum The Lace and Peplum Top by Simone Francis. It was published in Inside Crochet. Don't take my word for it, but it might have been issue 42, but I'm not sure. And, but you can look it up. What happened is that what I'm going to show you, I'm working it up in this 60% Pima cotton, 40% acrylic, Valley yarns. It only has a color number, color 13, but you'll see it's like a bluish gray. And this is a peplum blouse that also has a Peter Pan color, and it's in a contrasting color, and I went for gray. Contrasting color. Never in life. She does hers in like a vintage colored blue, light blue, maybe a turquoisey vintage blue, and a dark blue for the collar. But it is not in me to be so contrasting. So I chose this gray. I think I mentioned to you before that my mother, I was visiting her and she mentioned how ugly she thought the colors were, but that's okay. So what has happened? When you saw this, it was in one state, and now it has gone backwards. It's like started over again. Started over again twice. Because when you saw this, what had happened? I had begun it, and at one point I started going in between the posts on the half double crochets instead of under the stitch, and because I felt it was going to be too open, and then when I was almost ready to split for the sleeves, I didn't like the way it looked. I didn't like the way it worked. I thought it was too thick. I thought the fabric was too thick, and I wasn't going. The yarn is thick, the fabric was thick. I wasn't going to be able to use that as much as I wanted to, so I ripped it all back and I started over again. And then I got all the way down to the sleeves to break up for the sleeves, and when I decided to try it on, it was way too big, but way too big. And I'm like, oh, I couldn't believe it. But I wasn't going to have a garment that I wasn't going to use, and I can't think of anybody who is crochet worthy that it would fit. So I wasn't going to continue. I stopped. I ripped it all back. And now all of my, I think there are three skeins of 50 grams. So this is a 150 gram ball. Well, almost 150 gram, minus whatever I have already crocheted up. Put it all in there. And this is where I'm at now. This is where I'm at now. But I think I even tried it on the other time. You will notice, if you remember, you can compare it to the last one. See, it was reaching a lot further over on my... It is supposed to have a deep cut here. It's not supposed to be up at the neck. It's supposed to be deep here. But you'll notice that it is, if you compare it to the other time I podcasted, this edge here was more or less at the edge of my shoulder. So now I feel it's going to be okay. What I had to do was I had to go down a hook size. I had to go do 3.5 millimeter hook instead of a 4. Instead of a 4. And at one point, I think I even went up to a 4.5 because I just thought about the yarn. My yarn is thicker, so it's not going to be as drapier. I want it to be drapier. And then... And since I was doing in between the posts, I felt that I wasn't going to have enough row height and I would need more yarn. Well, I had all these ideas. The only idea that didn't occur to me was that since my yarn was thicker, using the 4 millimeter hook, even using the 4 millimeter hook that she uses, my gauge was bigger because the yarn was making my stitches larger. And when I had came all the way down to just breaking to dividing for the sleeves, it wasn't right. It wasn't right. So I am using the small size now. Before I was using the medium. I was using the medium and with a bigger yarn. So now I am using a small. I am doing the small size. And hopefully it'll be okay. If not, as Hannah of the Cozy Cottage Crochet has told me, it's just yarn. It's just yarn, and I'll break it up and do it again. So that is moving along, but it had 2 steps back before it actually started going forward. And so it is not as far as I would have wanted to. Imagine, 3 days ago, I had already separated for the sleeves. So I would have been showing you a very different project if I had been able to continue. Okay, but we're not going to think about that because that makes you sad. And if that makes you sad, then what else could I use as my Notion pouch and as except for this? This is Deborah Raymond from Indigo Chicken, but I don't think she's making these anymore. I think Elizabeth told me, or I went to the site and I realized that she wasn't making. It was a very beautiful Notions pouch, very ingenious and so well made. And look at all the vintage details. But I don't think they're available anymore. She went on to dyeing yarn or something like that. But anyway, the next project that I'll share with you a little bit of my progress is living in this spot. This was from Betsy Make. And at this time, my neighbors had just the cat that they were taking care of. It was a stray cat, but they were taking care of her because she was going to be a mama. And she had 5 white cats. And at that time, the cats were coming over here and they were eating here and they were doing all kinds of stuff. So I purchased the bag. And in the bag, I am using the pouch. Here's the pouch that I also added the crochet zipper to. See, it's got a little bit of the dent there too. That's because my crochet is not even on my zipper. Notice the zipper comes up. As in the other example that I showed you, the zipper is hidden within. It's like the zipper's like this. Because I'm not crocheting it to the 2 stitches at the top. I am crocheting it here on the side. And also this one is done with single crochets, not with slip stitches. But it all works. I guess, you know, for every project there's a different way to do it. The good thing about this one was also that I was lining it, so I was able to attach my lining to the inside stitches. And that helped me avoiding that the lining would catch on my zipper. And it gave me a good guideline to know where to end my lining. And so I was very happy with that. I showed you that last time, but I don't know if I said that. But anyway, the project that I am working up is made with another one of these balls. Another one of these color changing balls. Do you notice that I'm almost finished with the fuchsia? This one is mercerized cotton. I don't have the ball band with me, but I do have another one. It's a wrap. 50% cotton and 50% acrylic from Red Heart. This one is called Drama. It's just, there are some yarns that I buy because I love the name. Drama. This one is Romance. This one is Romance. I don't have the ball band, but for some reason I remember. This one is Romance. And so, I'll just put that up there. I am with that yarn. I was trying to make a pattern that I was testing for Elizabeth of the Crochet Cakes podcast. She is trying to publish a pattern where she uses the pineapple stitch to make a top. And I have been the worst tester in the world for her because I chose probably the worst yarn that I could have to test this. Because this is very light fingering weight. This is basically what they would call crochetier's thread. You know how when you go to I don't know if any of you have ever gone to a local yarn store and have asked them, when you have been asked what you are looking for, and you're just, I'm just trying to find a yarn to crochet my next project with, and they take you to the section where they have threads, very thin threads for crocheters. I guess it comes from the fact that many of the Irish lace crochet was made with yarns that were very thin like this and very small needles. And people are still not accustomed to crocheters that just want to crochet. And it doesn't matter what type of yarn, because I can basically make anything I want in any yarn. But I had that in my stash, and I thought that the color changes would look so nice with the pattern that I ignorantly, in my ignorance and lack of light above, I chose it. Well, I've gotten this far. I've gotten this far. I believe when we last spoke, I had one pattern repeat of the pineapple. And that's actually all there is supposed to be in this pattern. It's only supposed to have one repeat, because from there you start the body. Clarissa Beth worked hers up in wool. One of them was a single ply, and then she did a second version in the 75-25 succulent yarn. And so after she works it up and she aggressively blocks it, she gets a lot of stretch. But this is cotton acrylic. So that's number one. I didn't use the same yarn recommended by the designer. One mistake. So I felt it was going to be too short. It was going to be very cropped, because cotton doesn't stretch as much as acrylic. It was going to be very cropped if I started my body immediately after that one repeat of the pineapple. So I added a second repeat. So I'm already being a bad tester because I am modifying the original pattern. But I did keep the same amount of stitches, and I am using the large size. I am testing the large size because since my yarn is so thin, I didn't think I could do with this yarn. I couldn't do the small or the medium. She didn't need a tester for the small or the medium anyway. She needed to test the larger one. So I'm doing a large in this very thin thread. And what else? I did 2 rows. I am using for the bottom, I used a 3.5 millimeter hook. I think she recommends a 4.5 or a 4 millimeter. Again, a bad tester. And then when I got to the body, Clarissa Beth in her design uses 1 stitch, and I am doing just half double crochets. I am doing half double crochets in between the posts, because I said, well, this is very thin yarn. It's going to be really see-through, and I want it not to be so see-through. So again, as a very bad tester that I am doing half double crochets. But anyway, I'm going to continue. At least I can test for her, which is what she's most worried about, that the stitch counts will be correct for each of the sizes, and then the rest is up to how many modifications you want to make to yours. So this is going to stretch, right? It's pineapple stitch. It's going to stretch and open up so that you can see the lace better. But it doesn't need as aggressive a stretch as wool, because it's cotton. And cotton holds its place differently. So I want to use all of this. That was another reason why I decided to go half double crochets, because I had wanted to use up all the fuchsia by the time I finished in my pineapples. And then I wanted the body to be in this second color. And then I wanted the yoke and the sleeves to be in this third color. Then I gave up on that and just decided whatever happens, happens, right? Whatever works. Whatever comes out of it, in whatever colors, that's just the way I'm going to leave it, because I wanted to get this done for her. But I'm pretty far off. I'm pretty far off from finishing this test because my yarn is so thin. Sorry, Clarissa. I confess publicly. I am publicly confessing that I am a terrible tester, and I am telling everybody, if you want to test, don't be like I am. She still might need a tester, so if you're willing to test it, you might contact her and just say it, and she might still need a tester. I don't know, because I wasn't any good. But I love this. This is coming out very pretty. It's going to stretch, so I'm not worried about the size. I wanted it to be a little bit boxy, so hopefully it'll all work out when I get to the top, the top design. Basically, she's trying to do, this is a Wrangling design, and this was done top down. And she's trying to do the Wrangling, but bottom up, in crochet. It is known, it is a known technique for knitting. She's trying to do it in crochet. So, that is my poor experience, not my poor experience, my poor abilities as a tester. Because what I wanted to do, actually, that was the purpose that I had this yarn for. I wanted to do her design in this yarn. I still think that I might do it. Once I'm finished with that one, I still think that I might make a second one by using this yarn. Because again, I think it will look beautiful. And I love all those colors. I'm not a color person, but I do like all those colors. So, we'll see if that happens. What's next on the list? Is there anything else? Oh, okay. I can give you an update on my Word of the Year project, though I can't show it to you because it is all connected. The word is connected. I can't put up a picture for you. It is all connected and sewn together, but it is not attached to anything. So even if I were to hold it up here and show it to you, that you wouldn't be able to appreciate the letters and how very nice the letters actually look. No thanks to me. I mean, it was all the designer. What I mean is that how very well written the design of the letters is, so that it creates a very nice alphabet in cursive, in script. So I can't show it to you physically, but it is completed. I've completed the word. Now I just have to find what project to attach it to. And what I have been thinking as I've been doing all this reorganization here and looking through all my yarns again is that I still have yarn that last year I bought at EYF and I haven't used. One of the yarns was British wool, authentic British wool. I think it was chunky, but the yarn was too coarse for a garment. Their suggestion was to use it, and they gave you a free pattern. I think with the purchase of the yarn, they gave you a free pattern, or I don't remember if I had to purchase the pattern, but it was a pattern for a basket. So I am thinking, maybe I'll make a very large basket and sew, or this is 100% wool, so maybe I'll sew or felt, because I have tried to felt cotton to wool and it will stick. So maybe I'll felt the letters around the body of the basket and have this big basket in the corner of one of my rooms full of yarn that says authentic. And maybe I'll like that more than a wall hanging that I thought about originally. Not that the wall hanging doesn't appeal to me, but I'm kind of running out of walls to put things up on. And so yes, I'm thinking about doing that. It just occurred to me while I was cleaning these that I had a lot of yarn that I could make a big basket with. I also, if you'll remember, I don't know if I've even mentioned it, but Elizabeth has probably mentioned it a lot on her podcast if you watch the Crochet Cakes podcast. So Elizabeth is coming to Puerto Rico in May to have her wedding. And I have been going online shopping, trying to find the right garment to use, the right dress to use that will look good on me and also fit the occasion, and that also I could reuse for my son's wedding, who is getting married in October. And he is also coming to Puerto Rico to get married. And so I'm not going to invest a large amount of money on a dress that I'm just going to use once. There's also some discussion about the cake and if I am going to bake the cake or if we're going to purchase it from somebody else, being the fact that Elizabeth would like a cake that she actually enjoys the taste of. I don't know. It's all on an if, because when you're far away, it all seems possible. And as you get closer, it seems like life is going to become chaos and that you might not be able to do those things. And then you think about after. What am I going to feel like after having this one opportunity to do this and not have done it? So I'm not sure. I'm really not sure what's going to happen there, but I'm sure you guys want to know, so keep in touch with us. We'll see on the actual occasion if we can get some footage to share with you so you can actually be there with us. Another thing that Elizabeth had started was trying to crochet up the little tokens of appreciation that she was going to give out, the wedding favors. And she didn't like the yarn she had chosen, and she felt very stressed about making all of those things that maybe weren't going to be appreciated or were going to be thrown out. And so we decided to do something a lot simple because we're trying to brand her, this crochet cakes thing. Well, we figured that she's going to obviously have cakes at her wedding because there's going to be a cake there, at least one. And I don't know if the plural, but there'll at least be one. Well, maybe I should say there'll at least be two because I eat gluten-free. And so at least I'm going to make a cake for myself. I mean, not only for me, it'll be there, but it'll be one that I can actually eat. And then there'll be another one for everybody else. But I don't know if there'll be more than one cake, but there will be flowers. And so watching the Cherry Heart podcast, I saw her present a book, Crochet Succulents, and since succulents is the flower that Elizabeth wants to have in her bouquet and on her decorations, then though we're not going to do a big crochet up, we did think that we could crochet up several of them to put on the cake. Because Elizabeth would like to have one of these semi-naked cakes that are popular right now. And so the semi-naked cake will usually have more than one layer, and on the layer the cake is very, very slightly frosted, and it might even have some draping icing thrown around it, icing that just drapes down. And then on the different levels it will have small objects, a bit of decoration, whether it be flowers or whether it be macaroons or whether it be chocolates. It's a very slight decoration, sort of like in clusters. I'm sure you've all seen it, but that's the type of thing that she wants. And so we're thinking about crocheting up. She is thinking about crocheting up. I bought her the book. She could do the crocheting of the succulents that she will use for her bouquet and for well, I don't know for the bouquet. She's going to have succulents in her bouquet, but the coordinator, the wedding coordinator, might be able to find those. But for the ones that we're going to put on the cake, and that way we can say this is the Crochet Cakes podcast. So I hope you have enjoyed the time that we have spent together today. Thanks for watching. If you are a returning viewer, I am always happy to imagine you on the other side of the screen and to imagine the people that I am talking to. If you are a first-time viewer, it doesn't matter. I am also happy that you have come. Hopefully you would have enjoyed and what we talked about today and will be willing to return. So if you have liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you have not subscribed, don't forget to subscribe. If it is possible for you to copy the link of this video and share it with somebody else, then I would also be very appreciative of that gesture. It just helps our community to grow and to get out there more. And so thank you for being here today once again, and I hope you'll come back. One last thing. I have a trip planned with my husband for the week of the Holy Week, the week before Easter, so I won't be able to be here on my 2-week mark. So I'm still deciding it, but I'll either be here the week before. I would like to be here the week before because I want to talk about some Easter makes with you and share some Easter spirit with you, or I'll be here after. So I'm not sure yet, but check. I believe the date would be something about the 7th of April, would be the Thursday before I leave. I could try and upload a podcast on that April the 7th. If it's not possible April the 7th, then it will be somewhere around mid-April, maybe the 21st, the 19th or the 21st, that week of April, when I am back from that week of vacation. I mean, both those things have their favors, right? Or have their pros and their cons, because I want to share Easter with you, but I would also like to share the trip with you. But so it won't be 2 weeks. I can assure you that it won't be 2 weeks, because on that 2-week mark, I will be on a trip with my husband. So come back often, check make sure you hit the notification button. That's what you have to do. That way you will be notified when I upload that next podcast, and you won't have to be checking back here to see if I've uploaded or not. So thank you for watching once again. And in the meantime, while we meet again, keep yourself safe, keep yourself healthy, and keep crafting. See you soon. Bye.